What's up, everyone? I wanted to do a little opinionated rant for no other reason than to just express myself. And this is in light of recent turmoil in the US, particularly the extremes of the right versus left kind of battle, as represented by what do you call it, ANTIFA, that organization, and then like neo-Nazis on the other side. So there's been, the protests, and I don't need to go on about it, all sorts of carnage going on. And what bothers me most about it is the level of dishonesty taking place on both sides. And that is people using a cause to hide their true intentions. And I just wanted to point this out because there's the people like myself who are on neither side of this, or neither extreme side of this. We don't believe in the extreme communism idea, and we don't believe in the neo-Nazi idea either. We don't want either of those paradigms to take over power. We'd rather people just be fucking rational and do what works and what is helpful for everyone. So we're watching this thing going, God, what side do you pick? They're both so awful. And what I think is confusing for us is that both sides are pretending to represent ideals to mask their true intentions. And I want to start by talking about the true intentions of the left. It all started with the trigger warnings and the safe spaces and the gender fluidity and all this stuff about how you basically can't even say a word now without offending people, and that it's somehow your job to deal with that. And I want to talk about that because what we're seeing here is a group of people who love to be outraged. And that's the true intention. They found a good cause, a good reason to hide behind that they can get outraged about. And yet the truth of the matter is all they want to do is be outraged. It doesn't matter why they're triggered or what it is they find offensive or who they're fighting against. Put it this way, let's say if communism did come into power, if everything they've asked for actually happened, if all white privileged males committed suicide overnight, and the only people in power were the disenfranchised and the minority groups, and there was no gender, and everybody could be whatever they identified as, and so on and so forth, all the stuff they say offends them was removed overnight. You think they'd suddenly become happy, calm, rational people all the time? No. Of course they wouldn't, because they fucking love being outraged. It's their drug. They are essentially mentally ill. In the terms of they love outrage so much that nothing will ever satisfy them. I guarantee you what would happen, like it's already happened in the past, is if communism came into power, those who are in power would turn against each other. So if ANTIFA, or whatever they're called, got everything they wanted and won this war that they seem to be involved in, I have no doubt that within minutes they would turn on each other. And I've already seen this taking place. I saw some interesting things on the internet where people were talking about being triggered and how you're oppressing me and all that sort of shit. And one person was actually saying, if you are transgender, non-binary, non-queer, then you're oppressing me because I'm transgender, fluid, pansexual. It was like this, it was like panoply of words that I've never heard before in my life. And it was this minute niche attacking this other minute niche of the overall group. And what I saw in that was just noise of outrage. And it's the same as what I see with these protests. Now at the moment, they've got the neo-Nazis as their point of protest, which gives them a good rational grounds to be outraged. They can say, look, this is worthy of outrage. And yet if you look closely, you'll see them getting outraged of all sorts of shit within that has nothing to do with neo-Nazis. It has nothing to do with communism. It's just about being outraged. They're just looking for anything where they can go, I'm triggered, and just, rah! Now I get to wear my mask and join my friends and be outraged together. I guarantee you, if you actually took that away from them by allowing them to have whatever it is that they want, they still wouldn't be happy. So they're pretending that they're fighting for women's rights, or I don't know what else they actually seem to be fighting for. The inability to speak freely, I guess. Even if they got it, they'd still be upset. That I have no doubt. I worked in forensic mental health for a long time. I know what lunatics look like. Which brings us to the other side, the neo-Nazi side, of which I have even less support. At least with the ANTIFA, you've just got what I'd consider to be mental illness overtaking people. But neo-Nazis are often quite calmly sane in terms of their top ranks. They can be kind of quite appearing to be quite rational, intelligent people. But their true agenda is hatred. Like any group that bands together for a cause, their real cause isn't white privilege even. It's just about belonging together in hatred. They just want to hate. You know, it's really interesting to watch documentaries and listen to the stories of people who used to belong to these groups, and when they left, they talk quite freely and openly like, I just wanted to hate. That's it. Didn't matter who, really. I just had a cause that I happened to join, but all I wanted to do was hate. I just wanted to let that rage, that hatred build up in me, and I just wanted to force it on everyone else so I didn't have to face the truth, which was that I hated myself. And that's what you see with the neo-Nazi idea. They band together in this joint hatred so that no one individual has to look internally and go, where does this hatred come from? Where's this loathing come from? And so, you know, and that's what Nazism has always been. It's just been hatred. That's all it is. Just people who want to bathe in their hatred. People who, as you can see with when similar people come to power, they still fight amongst each other. I used to work with gangs in New Zealand, and there were a few different neo-Nazi gangs, skinheads and so on, and they fought each other constantly. And they did drug deals with their so-called enemies. There was no real attachment to the cause. There was just hatred. Wherever they could find it, however they could make it happen. So what's really interesting when I look at either sides of this battle is they're the same people with different causes. They're all people who just want to be outraged together in a group. That's it. All of them are just looking for something to fight against because they're so filled with hate that to even look at it in themselves terrifies them to the point of mental illness. They've lost their minds, essentially, and they've found groups of other lost people to be with. So the reason I wanted to go on this little rant is because it's so easy to get swept up in the content of their arguments, the facts and figures that they throw out, the points and policy that they're trying to make. But if you want to understand what you're seeing, is you need to step back from that and understand that content is meaningless. Neither the neo-Nazi nor the communist content is actually at all sensical. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's just a vehicle for delivering outrage. That's all it is. They don't really care about the things they claim to care about. All they care about is being aggressive, being outraged, being part of a group who's similarly outraged, and really just feeding and building and bathing in the hatred. So when you look at these groups and you're lost and you go, how can I explain something to them? How can I talk them around? Understand that rational talk's not going to work here because the content is not rational. They don't need the content. It's like arguing with someone who's extremely religious. You can't argue science to change their mind because it's not about the facts. It's about belonging and it's about an emotional sensation they want to have. So when you look at these people, understand that neither of them actually represent anything rational. These are just lunatics fighting against each other. If you really want to be part of the cause, you're going to have to separate yourself from this. Whether you want to be on the left or the right, you're going to have to pull back from these extremes and represent yourself in a rational way. Because if you get attached to these extreme ends of the spectrum, your argument will be lost in the outrage and the hatred. Nobody will be able to take you seriously. Nobody will be able to listen to you because you'll just be part of the lunacy. Don't know where I was going with that. Personally, I don't really have a side. I think both left and right are too extreme. There should be a combination of the strengths of both that designs leadership. But The only point I wanted to make is if you do want to get involved in the cause of deciding who should be in power and so forth, stay away from these extremes because they don't actually represent your cause, they're just lunatics. And I'll see you guys next time.